Welcome back to Five Ever Timepieces, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of luxury watches, discuss some of the stories behind these iconic pieces, as well as bring you guys relevant and up-to-date news from within the luxury watch world. As always, my name is Chris, and today we're talking about a brand that needs no introduction. Rolex. Rolex is a brand that you can go anywhere in the world, from high stakes business meetings to remote jungles, and you're definitely still going to find someone who recognizes Rolex. And that's because it's more than a watch. It's a symbol of success, achievement, and it has that timeless design. But honestly, what really makes Rolex the undisputed king of luxury sports watches? How did this brand build an empire that dominates the industry in both prestige and demand? And most importantly, which Rolex models should we be paying attention to here in 2025? Buckle up because, today we're going to dive into the history, innovation, and the power of the Rolex brand. Let's get into it. Now, like I've said before, Rolex isn't just a watch brand. It's an institution. Founded in 1905 by Hans Wilsdorf, Rolex started with one simple goal: to create wristwatches that were not only elegant, but incredibly precise and durable. Fast forwarding to today, and Rolex is cemented as, the most recognizable luxury sports or luxury watch brand in the world. They were pioneers in so many areas, from having the first waterproof wristwatch with the oyster case in the early 20s to having the first self-winding movement with the perpetual rotor in the 1930s. They were also the first watch to summit Mount Everest, as well as the first watch to reach the deepest parts of the ocean in the 60s, I believe. This is what I mean. Rolex doesn't just make watches. They make history. And the crazy part, they still operate like an independent powerhouse, producing well over 1 million watches a year, while also maintaining insane quality control, as well as their exclusivity. So why does Rolex dominate the luxury sports watch category? Well, it comes down to three things. That's durability, timeless design, and brand power. First, let's talk about durability. Rolex watches are built like tanks. They have their own proprietary oyster steel, which is, super tough. It's like the 904L stainless steel. That's more corrosion resistant than what most watch brands use. Then there's the Cerachrome bezels. This scratch-proof, fade-resistant ceramic. This just keeps your watch looking pristine for decades. Then we have timeless design. Rolex, like I said before, they do not chase trends. If you look at a Rolex Submariner from the 1960s and compare it to today's models, the DNA is almost identical. They will make small refinements over time, similar to things like the Mercedes G-Wagon or the Porsche 911, but like I say, they just make these small refinements over time, but the core designs like the Submariner, Daytonas, GMT-Masters, and Explorers, they remain instantly recognizable. That's why Rolex never looks outdated. And then finally, we have brand power. Rolex has built an image that's both aspirational and exclusive. They carefully control their supply, which is just ensuring that the demand from the public is going to always outweigh the availability. That's why you have people willing to wait years to get, for example, a stainless steel Daytona at retail. These combinations The combination of these three factors, rather, is why Rolex remains undefeated in both the luxury as well as luxury sports watch market. Now let's get into the fun part. The most legendary Rolex sports watches, and honestly, what makes them so special. We're going to go over 5 different Rolex models, beginning with the number 1, the iconic Rolex Submariner. Now, this is the OG dive watch. This was originally released in 1953. The Submariner is honestly the most famous dive watch in the world. Being resistant to 300 meters is just a plus. It's built like a tank, and it looks just as good in a suit as it does on a wetsuit. And if you could only own one Rolex, the Submariner would definitely be a solid choice. Then for our second one, we're going to talk about the Rolex Daytona, the ultimate chronograph. This was named after the famous Daytona racetrack. This watch is a legend in motorsport. The Paul Newman Rolex Daytona. This was one of the most expensive Rolex watches ever sold at an auction, going for well over $17 million. Today, getting a Daytona at retail is nearly impossible. It was nearly impossible. I'm not sure about how they go about with the leniencies that they just gave the public recently about having purchase history. So yeah, it would definitely, I won't say impossible, but it definitely might require you to wait a little bit if you have to. Then for the number 3 spot, we're talking about the Rolex GMT-Master II. This is the perfect travel watch. This was something that was originally designed, I believe, for Pan Am pilots, like in the 50s. The GMT-Master II, it lets you track multiple time zones. This is why it was such a benefit for anyone that was in aviation at the time. Like today you have models like the Pepsi and Batman versions. These 2 models are some of the most sought after Rolex models today. Then coming in at number 4, we have the Rolex Explorer and Explorer 2. Now, speaking of adventurers, like similar to pilots, taking multiple adventures across time zones, the Rolex Explorer and the Rolex Explorer 2, this is the adventurer's Rolex. These are built for extreme conditions, whether you're climbing mountains or exploring caves. It's a sleeper pick for those who want an understated yet rugged Rolex. Then finally coming in at number 5, we have the Rolex Yachtmaster and the Rolex Yachtmaster II. Like, these are for the high rollers. The Yachtmaster series is, in my opinion, Rolex's take on a luxury nautical watch, with platinum bezels and a more redefined or refined design. But then, like, the Yachtmaster 2, on the other hand, is a regatta timer made for professional sailors. These watches, they define Rolex's dominance in the sports category, whether you're into diving, racing, aviation, or adventure. There's a Rolex that's built for you. Now let's address the big question. Is Rolex still worth buying in 2025? The short answer, yes, but only if you can get one at retail. Rolex watches have these insane resale values, with some models selling for double or even triple the retail price. But here's the problem. Rolex keeps their production numbers so tight, that getting a stainless steel model from an authorized dealer is damn near impossible unless you have a strong purchase history or had one. Like I said, I don't know how the new leniency of, basically requiring some type of purchase history to acquire some models at retail. I don't know how that's affecting you guys' purchases personally. I have been seeing people being able to go in themselves with no purchase history and get the piece that they were after. So it just depends, I guess. But if you can get a Rolex at retail, this is a no-brainer. But if you're paying inflated gray market prices, you have to ask yourself, Are you buying it as an investment or because you genuinely love the watch? But for collectors, Rolex is always a safe bet. For long-term or first-time buyers, my advice is to be patient. Build a relationship with an AD, and don't rush into overpaying these outrageous, resale fees or resale prices unless it's like a grailed piece that you truly want. So, there you have it. Rolex, the king of luxury sports watches. They dominate the industry with history, durability, and prestige. Their models are timeless, from the Submariner to the Daytona. They will never go out of style, these two models. They're one of the best investments in watches, but only if you play the game right. And at the end of the day, Rolex isn't just a brand. They aren't just watchmakers. They produce status symbols. They produce pieces of history. And for many collectors, they produce ultimate grails. That's going to wrap up today's episode. If you've enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe and leave a review. Also, hit me up on Instagram or wherever you follow 5 Ever Timepieces. I want to hear from you. What's your favorite Rolex model? Tomorrow, we're going to talk about Richard Mille, the billionaire's G-Shock. So don't miss it. Until next time, keep ticking in style.